when you look at like rice.farm, its mission is to reduce methane emissions from rice production and make rice farming more sustainable. How do you monetize that? Right? It's clearly like a really, really powerful mission, and there is a need in the world for that. I'm curious to know what the business model is there. How does a business like this go on to make money?
Yeah, I think there are two types of businesses. One is where you're coming out with an innovative product, right? And it's tech led, and that product in itself is the business, right? In our case, we're actually innovating on the business model itself. It's a business model innovation. And by that, I mean what we're actually doing is we're attempting some social reengineering. Rice has been cultivated for centuries, right? For a millennia. And what is ailing rice is important to understand. Farmers, follow their traditional practices, cultivation practices. And one of the prominent practices is flooding the fields, right? And they flood the fields because they feel that when you flood the fields, they're going to prevent weed growth. And that's the best way of cultivating and having a healthy crop. The reality is when you flood the fields, there's a bacteria that starts multiplying and producing methane. It's an anaerobic process. So the tech, if you may, to eliminate that bacteria is simply to let the field dry for 8 to 10 days at the right time. And when you do that, the bacteria dies and you can cut emissions by about 50% or more. The real challenge here is how do you incentivize farmers to change their practice? And this is the social reengineering, the business model reengineering. So the focus for us at Rize is how do you introduce the right incentives for farmers to do that, to drive that change in behavior while ensuring that they don't have a yield loss, that they don't lose out in the process, and they actually see an upside. So we provide inputs to the farmers. We finance their inputs for the season. We don't charge them any interest. We typically end up lowering their cost by about 8 to 10%. They also see a slight bump in yield by about 5 to 10%, and so there's a net income improvement of about 20% for the farmers. There's a convenience. They get authentic products. And so we also make money in the process because we buy bulk and we supply direct to farmers. So, but at the heart of this is actually, solving for farmer trust. And to do that, we building micro entrepreneurs from the community who are responsible for 200 to 300 hectares each. And that's how you kind of scale this business.
Interesting. So super interesting. So rice actually makes money by selling products to farmers as well. But in order to accomplish the mission, there is a larger mission at play. But how rice makes money is by selling products to the farmers that are actually adopting this new philosophy, this new approach to rice farming.
Yeah, that's kind of it. So, we incentivize lower cost inputs and encourage adoption of sustainable practices. But then to enforce that, we also have our own, digital MRV. So we have built platforms that can do, the carbon credit generation. So we have all the digital trace. We ground truth every hectare that we service. There is monitoring, validation and reporting available through our platform. And so we also earn some revenue through the carbon credits. We work with large carbon buyers who want high trust credits, and that's another part of the business. Part of that revenue also goes to the farmers, and we're also helping with offtake. So we are connecting large buyers and traders to farmers who are growing sustainably. The idea is that in the world that we live in, nobody's going to pay green premiums. You're not going to buy a rice more expensive because it's sustainable, and nor should you. Right? Especially when the technology is there for people to make that shift without spending more, right? So our job is to make sure that sustainably grown rice is available in markets at the same price as high emission rice. And I think that should be a choice that consumers make. It's not something that they should have to, put their hand in their pocket to pay a premium. And so that's the next step that we are working to enable at this point. And I strongly believe that in years to come, we will replace shelves in retail stores from high emission rice to low emission rice and sustainably grown rice.
My question here was What's the time horizon you give yourself for something like this, right? Social re-engineering sounds like a much harder thing to do than, say, competing on price or just giving consumers an option where they click a button and do something different. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for pain. This is another. This is
Here's how
another.
I was being polite.
Yeah, this is another one of those B2B long play, long trajectory initiatives. Something like this, won't happen in like a 2 to 4 year time frame. You need to kind of give like at least 8 to 10 years for something like this to take hold and really become effective. Um, my hope is that in the next sort of 5 years, we're able to kind of make the pivots and the fine tunings in the business model, get it to where it needs to be, so that we lock in on something that can then scale, right? And once it's at that point, it should be easily executable. And I go back to Hyperpure. I think that was my mission with Hyperpure as well. Lock in on a business model that's highly predictable. It doesn't matter who's executing after a stage, it'll keep scaling and growing. And honestly, that's kind of the state it's in today. There's obviously new stuff you can keep doing and adding, and there's always innovation opportunities, but the business itself can stand tall on its own 2 feet, right? And I think that's the mark of any successfully designed, run business is go deep, really deep in the first few years, set it up really well, get the foundational work right, and then you're good to go. And so my expectation is it's going to take 4 to 5 years to get Rize to that stage. And also it's, very market sensitive in terms of how governments get involved. A stable crop like Rize has various levels of oversight from the ministries, from governments. For example, if I have to meet farmers in Vietnam, I need approvals from the Ministry of Defense in Vietnam, right? Because food security is a matter of national defense in a country like Vietnam. So, you need to kind of jump through various hoops and hurdles, but 5 to 7 years is the minimum horizon for something like this.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this clip, do like and subscribe. To watch the full episode with Dhruv, the founder of Zomato Hyperpure and Rize.farm, click on the video here.